I promised during my last video that the next video I'll show the problems we face for the printing of that design for additive manufacturing parts. Okay, so I took that part designed for additive manufacturing as I shown in the last video, and I saw basically two problems. One is uprooting of the support, and second is getting the slender members getting broken during printing. So these were the two problems. In this video, I'll show you how I solve those two problems. What are the steps I have taken to solve the two problems, and what happened after I put. So the first thing what I did is, so when it was uprooting, so obviously the bonding between the plate and that base plate and that parts are not strong. So I used adhesives. Okay, so that was my first step, and that's I think good idea to use adhesive, especially if you are doing printing with ABS plastics, because those are very rigid, strong and hard material. So if you see that I have put, of course that has not solved all the problem, as you can see from this video, but that is probably the necessary first step if you are working with ABS, and of course maybe you can also use it for other materials such as PLA or so on. Okay, so I used those adhesives. I used Fevicol, which is available locally over here. And second, to avoid that uprooting problem, I made sure that edge is not directly rest on the base plate. So I made that design. So if you see that if you the edge is directly rest on the base plate, so the layers when it is trying to start printing, if you see that there is a all the legs are properly connected, but the one which is now getting printed is actually, since the first stage was not properly sticked, so the rest of the layers also have not properly connected, and as a result what happens is basically it's very poorly constructed print. Okay, so that's what it is doing. So I made sure in the, so if you see this is where the picture is much more better over here. If you see the bottom right leg, yeah, that highlighted one is where the problem is, because their edge was directly resting on that base plate. So as a I made changes that and the thickness of that leg, and made sure that I put some material before the leg edge, so that bonding happens uh, uh, between the base plate and the first layer. Okay, so this is again showing that what happens if the edge is directly printed, and that's why it is uprooted. Okay, so basically it has got removed. Rest all are okay, but that got removed. Okay, so uh, to so that was one thing what I did. Then after that, what I did is I tried to use the addition type as brim. Okay, default it is none. If it is none, then there is no other material than the part itself will be printed. But if you see that it is brim, so that's what it is showing. If you see that in the bottom layer, if you observe, there are surrounding surface will be created, which will in turn give the stronger bonding with the base plate. Okay, so that kind of solved my first problem, which is first layer is not getting printed and layers are getting uprooted. But then there is another problem of breaking the slender member, so that's what it is showing by highlighted. Okay, and to solve that problem, what I did is that was a major problem, severe problem, and after say some percentage, maybe 25 to 30%, when the member gets long enough, so that extruder was actually hitting that members, and it is getting broken. So what I did is to avoid that problem, I increased the uh, I increase the size of the depth of that layer. Okay, so by default it is 0.15 mm, which was the earlier case. I made it 0.2 mm, and that's where so what it did is, actually, if you make this little bigger, little thick, little high, those members, then the chances of getting hit by those by the extruder will be less. Okay, and that's what you will see when we see in that next next trial of my exercise of printing this part. Okay, so I went to that. So if you are using a slicing software like repeater host or something like that, I use repeater host. So there is, it's quite easy to find out. So if you go to configuration um, of the repeater host, then you will see that the layer height option is there. Okay, and you can change it. And this is the final one where I applied all those things. For example, I applied glue, I applied bream type of addition for while slicing, and then I have also applied uh, that higher layer thickness, layer height. Okay, so earlier it was 0.15, and then I made it zero point 0.2. And of course, I also did some other change. For example, I now this time decided to print without any support geometry. So if you observe the earlier trial where there was a middle member which was supporting, because I created that support, but then I decided to remove that and check how it works. And um, it is it gives decent print quality, actually, although there was some roughness bottom of the center member, but otherwise, more or less, it is good. It gives me good print without even support as well. Okay, so there was one more learning, which is for if you are dealing with ABS, which I am working with. Make sure your temperatures are high enough. So I used around, I think, uh, 240 for extruder, and then 140 for bed. Okay, that's in degrees centigrade. If you don't make that hot enough, then there I faced problem when I tried printing with lower temperature. Okay, of course, there are disadvantages for um, hot high temperature as well, but I found it reasonable. I found it a good combination, especially if you are printing ABS. Okay, so with that, I think I just wanted to share this learning, and I would request you guys to comment about your learning as well. And with that, thanks for watching. Again, I'm Shibashish, and you are watching this video on the channel of MakeGuru.com. Thank you.